Hello everybody, this is Zhatt here and welcome to Zhatt Flight Laboratories, or ZFL as I like to call it. I've noticed a lot of Kerbal Space Program players have been able to get out into the atmosphere, into orbit, and even make it to Mun. But a lot of you are struggling to get into the outer system. Let's take a look here. In this series, I hope to be able to show you how to get over to Jool. More specifically, we're going to go to Tylo. Other than Eve, this is the body in the system that takes the most Delta V to get to. So hopefully, if we can make it there, we should be able to make it anywhere else. Now, I'm running a clean version of 20.2. Even though there's probably a new version right around the corner. I'll probably stick with this version of the game just to keep consistency. We're going to be doing everything stock, with the exception of one piece of hardware, the Kerbal Engineering system. We're going to use this along with the Delta V Map we can get from the wiki. And this will help us design our rocket. I'll show you I'll put links down below in the description to get the engineering system and the Delta V map. But for now we can just look at this one here. And specifically we're going to be looking at the path to Tylo. There's a bunch of numbers on it, and I'll explain those as we go along. Now I've loosely planned out this rocket earlier, but it might still take a little bit of time to build, because we are going to have many stages doing many things to get all the way up there to Tylo. This is going to be just a little rocket, just a little remotely guided probe, because whatever we're going to send out there, we're not going to be able to get back. That would just take too much Delta V at this point. And it's probably going to be a pretty complicated mission to begin with. So right off the bat, let's give this thing a battery, because that's something I often forget and run out of power on the dark side of the planets and miss my burns. We're also going to want a control system, advanced SAS. We'll put that on the top stage so we can use it for the entire rocket. And to make things pretty, let's do this. Note that the aerodynamic cones don't actually do anything for aerodynamics. They actually just add a little bit of weight, but I like to throw them on there just for prettiness sake. And let's start with our engineering system here. I'll just slap that on right on top. By the way, if you can hit X and C to change, well, X changes your what's it called? What is this called? Symmetry mode. And you can also go Shift X to go backwards. So just throw one of these on. And C changes your snap. This is with it off, it just goes wherever you put it. And then you have, it's probably an 8-way snap around objects with C on. We'll just throw that on for now. Kerbin, this is the bottom row here on the engineer, is to change so the different atmosphere modes, tell you what your Delta V will be in the different atmospheres. I'll just leave it on Kerbin. That's where we'll be doing most of our initial work. We don't really need to look at any of this stuff. We're just going to go to compact mode, make it nice and tidy. And let's start building our rocket. So, stage 1, if we take a look at our Delta V map, we're going to do this backwards from top to bottom. So at Tylo, this is 3,700, no, that's not right, 3,070 Delta V, just to get from orbit to landing. And so we want our lander section to have that much Delta V. This is a really light section here, so we won't need a lot of fuel. Let's try just a little tank. And let's put on, which engine do we want? Let's try this guy. This one has a decent ISP in the vacuum. ISP is your specific impulse, and it basically, the simplest way to think of it is how efficient your engine is. The higher the number, the more efficient it is. This is a pretty efficient one, both in and out of the atmosphere, so it'll be good for landing. And right away, we get some readings on our Kerbal Engineer system here, saying that this stage has a delta V of 4,128. I'm just gonna, so I'm flipping through different windows here and checking my map again. Just set this up. What I'm doing. And we only need 3,070 for the landing portion, so this section itself is more than enough. You probably want more delta V than it actually states, because you're probably not going to have a perfect flight profile if you're flying by hand, which we'll be doing. So you need to have a little bit extra, and we're probably going to have a bit more pieces on here, such as landing gear. I always forget what tabs I'm looking for. Landing gear would be under agility on this page. I want these ones, and we'll pop. Let's do four-way symmetry. Put those on there. Notice our delta V goes down when we add weight. We're still in the clear for our weight allowance though. And we're probably going to want some solar panels to recharge our battery. Let's just grab these little guys. We don't need much of that, just put 2. There we go. I think that covers it for our top stage. Not sure if I'm forgetting anything here. We'll look at RCS systems later. I'm actually not going to have any RCS on the top, on the landing stage. We can do all of our adjustments on the way down with just our main thruster. So let's start on the next stage. We need to go to structural and put on a decoupler. And I'll move this guy up. I noticed that the engineer system for some reason kind of creates weird staging on the right side there, but we'll be able to fix that later if there's any issues. So, looking back at our Delta V map, we have some more numbers. The next stage is 940, and this is just to get into orbit from intercept. That's not a large number, so we might be able to combine it with the intercept itself. Try to keep the number of parts down. 2,190. If we add those up, we get 3,130 for delta V for that stage. So this one's obviously going to be a bit bigger, but let's see what we have here. If we throw on something like this, and then we throw on something like this, we have 4,000 delta V, which more than meets our 3,100 goal. But issue is, this could be a bit of a cumbersome piece. Has quite a bit of mass. Let's see what's the mass on this. Mass is 18. Now if I do it a different way, I think I can lower the mass quite a bit, because the more mass you have, the less delta V you have. So in a weird way, the more fuel you have, the less delta V you potentially have. So if we lower the mass and have less fuel, we might actually get more delta V, or at least lower our mass, which means less fuel in the lower stages. Keep our rocket as small as possible. I'm going to try putting one of these on, and we'll look at an atomic motor. Atomic motor has the best ISP, or specific impulse, in the vacuum out of all the engines. One of the worst for at sea level. So it's a good piece to use out in space, but it also has not a lot of thrust. So it's not something you want for when you need quick delta V changes. Like near a planet when you're trying to circularize your orbit, but it is good for major changes like intercepts. So this would actually be a good engine for this section because this is going to be intercept. I could actually will be circularizing at this stage too, but this should be enough. We'll see. Anyways, that gives us Delta V of 2320, which is almost more than half of the last one, and it's just this tiny little tank. So using the right engines and the right tanks can get you a lot more Delta V. We need some more fuel on here. Instead of putting a bigger tank on, I want to keep the height of the rocket down to try to keep the angular momentum high, I think is what it would be. Where basically the longer the rocket is, the harder it's going to be to turn around a point. Because there's a lot more momentum on the ends. I think it's kind of a simplified way of saying it. So I'm actually just going to grab some of these tanks, try 4 of them, and we'll just pop them right on there. No decouplers, because I don't really want to be doing staging at this point. Not necessary. Fuel going from the tanks to that tank. Wow! 7,000. That's quite a bit. We only need 3,000 something, 3,200 about. So this is actually way more than we need. Let's take these off. Let's try it with just, 6,000. You know what? Since we have so much Delta V here, let's look at our chart again. And we might be able to combine the Joule. See, this would be the transfer from Joule to... Oh, I see. Okay. No, wait, I'm getting confused here. Yeah, this is the Joule intercept. So this would be to circularize around Joule. This would be to transfer to Tylo, and this is to circularize around Tylo. So we might be able to combine that all into one package. Even better might be to include the circularization in our landing stage. Put a little bit of fuel up here. Actually, let's do that. Let's look at... So we just need a little bit more fuel. Whoops. I'm gonna try... Okay, I'm gonna change these. I'm gonna make a 3-way symmetry on the rocket instead of 4. Come on. Why won't you go on there? There we go. I'll make these 3-way symmetry as well. And small fuel tanks. Delta V goes down. It creates 5,000, which is actually quite a bit more than we need. I kind of wish there were smaller tanks you could use. Okay. What if we put in a single tank here? It gives us 4,400, which is way more than enough to do the circularization and landing. So let's leave it like that. It's a bit of a tall landing stage, but it'll do. So now that we have that out, we only need to combine 2,700 with 2,100. So we're looking at 4,800 for our bottom stage, and we're currently at 5,600. So this stage is basically done. Again, I'm gonna just pretty things up a little bit. Pop these on there, and I'll put these down here. By the way, if you don't know, ASWD, you can rotate your pieces around. And if I hold shift, click anywhere, I can grab the whole rocket. Move it on up, hold shift, zoom out. Okay, so those are our 2 top stages. We're actually almost halfway through our chart here. So let's put on the coupler for our next stage, which would be under structural, of course. Second page, stack decoupler, Doink. And something else to pay attention to on the Engineer here is the TWR is your thrust to weight ratio. In space, it's not hugely important to have a huge thrust to weight ratio. It'll just mean a shorter burn. Like I said, the nuclear rockets are likely to have longer burns because of their lower thrust. But when you're going to land or take off, you're going to need more than a 1 thrust to weight ratio. Because if it's lower than 1, you will not be able to lift off the ground. And if you're landing, you're going to hit the ground pretty hard. Because the amount of thrust that's coming out of the bottom will not be enough to actually lift the rocket. Now, moving on to the next stage. This is probably going to be... Okay, let's see here. Back to our chart. We're looking at 950, let's say 1,000, and 965, let's say another 1,000. So we need 2,000 if we want to combine these two stages together. This 1,000 is to get into basically orbit around the sun, and then the 965 is to adjust your orbit to actually intercept with Joule. So that would be good to just continue into one stage, because it can basically be one long burn if you line things up right, which we'll look at in another episode, how to do that. So we want a stage with 2,000 Delta V, and it gets harder because now this stage also has to lift all this fuel. So I'm going to go to structural, put on another cosmetic piece, and let's just go straight for a Rocco Max. Don't like using these things because they're heavy and slow, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Now for this stage, how do I want to do this stage? I'd like to use a nuclear engine. Whoa, looks huge. But what's going on here? That gives us 7,000 Delta V. But the thrust to weight ratio is 0.1, which means we'd be burning for quite some time. I think there might be a better way of doing this. Let's try. I'm gonna take... I'm gonna take some more of these tanks, pop them around there, and we'll attach that to there. Gives Delta V of 6,000, and well, basically triples our thrust to weight ratio, but that's actually a lot more Delta V than we need. I feel like I'm missing a stage here. 4,000 for that. 5,000 for that. Seems like this rocket's becoming a lot more efficient than the one I test built earlier. Okay. Let's try a smaller stage here. Put these on, and we'll put... Oops. Nuclear engines. 4,000. Not enough thrust. Okay, instead of that, what if we just put a real engine on there? Let's do a poodle. This gives us 1,700. Okay, I also realized something else I'm doing wrong. Because I'm not actually connecting these outer tanks with the middle one, which would give us even more Delta V. Let's put smaller tank, and grab this, 3 of them, with fuel pipes. I'll draw from the center tank out to the outer tanks, and put our atomic rocket. Gives us Delta V of 3,500 when we only need 2,000. with a 0.4 thrust weight ratio. That's actually pretty good. I might just leave it like that. I feel like you're doing something wrong here, because my other rocket that stage was huge. Oh well. Let's keep going. Don't like the placement of these exactly sticking down like that, so let's move them on up a bit. Actually, since we have so much Delta V, we don't even need these big tanks. Let's put on some little ones right up at the top here. Come on. Right there. Reconnect our fuel lines. And put these on. Whoop. There. More than enough. Cool. And again, cosmetic pieces. Okay, moving on. Let's put our decoupler. So this is basically our rocket to get to Joule. Now we need to get this into space. And to do that, we need 4,550 Delta V according to our chart. And that's quite a bit. Let's look at Rockamax. And we're going to need a lot of thrust, so let's put on the mainsail. And that only gives us 1,700. We need about 3 times as much as that. So let's try putting on some more fuel. 3 more tanks. Right there. And we'll just put skippers on here. Oop. Why won't you work? The weird bug in the game that things don't always like to snap on. I might have just put these a little too high. Actually, what I'm going to do is put these onto couplers, because we can drop them as we go up, which is under structural. And take these ones right there. Let's line it up a bit. Skippers. Now it's giving us 2 different stages here. We actually want this to all burn at the same time. This gives us 3,400. But let's try doing the old, they call asparagus type trick, or onion. What I'm going to call drop tanks, basically. Oh, I did that backwards. So we're going to drain these outer tanks first into the middle one. So the middle tank will still be burning once we drop these. And I think staging setup, right? So what do we have here? Look at the second number total on the 6th stage. We have 3,946. So we're still short. What I can do is actually just add some more fuel to these drop tanks. Let's start with a smaller one. Right there. 4,200. Not yet. And put on bigger ones. 4,562. That gives us only a 12 meters per second margin of error. So what I'm going to do is toss on a little bit more. 4,600. That should do it, but let's spend a little bit more money. 4,800. There we go. That'll definitely get us into space. We can probably even start part of our circularization burn. That's what I'm probably mixing up here. Looking at our chart, the first is low Kerbin orbit. That would include circularization. Okay. And top it off. Bit of nose cones. And that should be able to get us all the way there. Notice that I kept the height down by sort of stacking things up on the outside instead of just going long. And that'll help with our rotation. A few more details that we need on this guy. Mainly struts. There's a lot of wobbly bits here. So I'm going to connect these together. And I'm going to connect these to the main body. Both sides. These will break when we drop our stages. Let's do it up here as well. Because those dinky little radial decouplers, whoops, are not going to hold these on by themselves, on their own. And this section is actually going to get really wobbly sticking up on the top of the rocket like that, so I want to attach this to there, and we're even going to attach this to this stage. And one last thing, we're going to attach this stage to this stage. That should shore things up, keep things stable. One last system we're missing is our control RCS system. I'm going to need this to point my rocket once I get up into orbit, because there's not going to be a lot of control for this entire length. So, don't really need them down here. Probably want them. Issue is, I've got a 3-way symmetry on this rocket, but I'm going to want 4-way symmetry for my RCS system, because, well, that's kind of the way the rocket works. When you tilt forward, it's going to shoot 2 of them, and when you turn to the left or right, it's going to shoot the other 2. If you have just 3 on, it creates some unusual movements in waste RCS generally. I was saying I didn't really want RCS on the top stage, but no, let's just throw it down here. That'll fit right there, right? Oh, it's just 3-way. Doesn't really make sense being tucked away like that, but it's gonna have to do. And you want to have it high up as possible, that way it gives you the most leverage. Never mind, let's just do it. Let's put them right up here. Probably won't have fuel for them, but these things themselves are really light, so it won't really detract from having them on the stage. Symmetry keeps changing. There we go. And my RCS fuel, I'm actually gonna just hide away down here. Really don't need much. Right there. And where else can I put some RCS? Not a lot of room. It's gonna leave. Okay, and it's kind of too tight right there. Actually, no, it should fit right there. Let's try that. Control RCS. 4-way symmetry. Doesn't want to go. Oh, snuck it in. Oh, that's why. We'll just leave it. Nobody saw that. I normally like to make slightly more realistic rockets that make sense, but we don't really have time for that, so this will have to do for now. I think that covers what we need. Let's flip through here. We got our remote control system. We obviously have our propulsion on there. We have advanced SAS and some RCS. One thing I'm considering is controlling this lander. The pod won't have a lot of torque. How much does it have? SAS torque 5. Maybe I want to put on one of these which has... Oh, that's the advanced. I want to look at... There we go, SAS module, max torque 20. This might be a good thing to put in here somewhere. Yeah, let's just slide that in there. That doesn't change our... No, it's pretty light. We still have enough to get into space. Oh no, that's right. Stage 6 and 7, total of 4,000. Yep. Okay. Structural. We have it all strutted up. Aerodynamic. Yeah, that's something I keep forgetting. Let's put on some fins on our lower section here. Try to keep the rocket straight as it's going up. Let's get out of those struts. There we go. I don't think we'll need separatrons for these stages. Should be okay. No, won't be doing anything fancy. Rocket should be stable as we go. Let's move these up here. Oops. Whoops. Just went right there. Kinda wish this stage wasn't as tall. There really needs to be a half tank of this size. I'd really like to have that kind of fine-tune option. Utility. We have batteries. We don't need any of this stuff. Docking clamps, not doing any docking. We have landing gear, parachutes. Parachutes? No, we're going to Tylo, which does not have an atmosphere, I believe. I could be mistaken. And I chose that on purpose because it's a little bit easier to land with a parachute. You basically, survive re-entry, pop your parachute, and you're gonna land. I chose Tylo to try to make it interesting and show how to do a landing without an atmosphere, and if you can do that, then you can definitely do one with an atmosphere. We don't need wheels. Okay, I think we're done here. So we'll take off our engineer system at the end. We'll name our rocket. What are we going to name it? Let's name it Tylo Express. Save. And let's do a quick test. It's always a smart thing to do before you go to another world. Oh. What happened there? Just fell apart. And over we go. I think we need some... what are they called? Not struts, but launch stability enhancer. Yes, that's exactly what we need. So we'll bring this down and enhance our launch stability. That'll do. And we'll save that. Actually, something I didn't check is staging. I think it's right though. All those are gonna fire. We drop these. We drop that bottom rocket. These three fire. Then we can drop that stage. That'll fire. We drop that engine and those off. And then we just have our lander. Yeah. Save. Launch. There we go. That's holding together. SAS on. Throttle up. Fire. I didn't check our thrust to weight ratio, but apparently it's pretty close to 1. This is good enough. We're going up. Overheating. I think those skippers aren't enough. This is why you test your rockets. Okay, I'm gonna throw our Kerbal engineering system back on. We have 4,700 out of 4,550 that we need. What would happen if we put mainsails on all of them? 4740. It's cutting. Oops, that's just one. I need all of them. There we go. 45. 35. Okay. I do want those on. So we'll just add some more fuel. And we're at 4745. Ooh, let's move these two. No, that didn't work. Come on. Connect that to... Why? What is going on here? This connect to there. There we go. And actually, let's do structural struts from here to here as well. Okay. Now our thrust to weight ratio is closer to 2, which means probably going to go about twice as fast as we did last time. Let's take off our engineer system. Save. Launch. Clear the pad. Rocket number 3. Number 3. SAS on. Throttle to max. Want to disengage this, and staging's all wrong. There we go. Fire! Or launch! Take off! Now we're actually moving up. Hopefully we can actually get up to speed before things start overheating. So these overheat at top speed, but once you get up to about 100 meters per second anyways, you're going to want to throttle down. Because at that speed, you're just pushing hard through the atmosphere and not really... the atmosphere is slowing you down more than you're actually... How do I phrase this? It's inefficient because of all the atmosphere you have to push through. The faster you go, the harder it is to push through that atmosphere. So we'll just hold it at about 3/4 throttle. Keep our speed increasing, continue accelerating. You can let this climb slowly as the atmosphere gets thinner. Now this stage... Ooh, something just exploded. What was that? It's supposed to get us out into orbit, but we'll test that later. Right now I'm just going to cut this, drop our tanks, because I just want to test all the systems. So that worked right. Cut, drop, launch. Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's getting a little unstable here. It's one of the funnier looking rockets I've made. Cut that, drop it, fire. Oh! Oh, what happened there? I think there was a bit of a problem with our fairings. I don't think that would happen in space if we actually took the time to... Anyways, let's see. This is our landing stage. Gear works. Panels extend. Turn this ass off here. Whoa! Whoa! Straight down. This is not good. Luckily, we won't have to deal with the atmosphere in Tylo, so it won't be pointing straight down like this. Anyways, let's call that a successful test, other than the quick rearrangement of our initial stage there. These should be in there. Save that. And then in the next episode, let's actually launch this thing and start getting on our way to Tylo. So subscribe and follow along with what we're doing here, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.